Hello friends, welcome to GCA. Hope you all are doing good and your preparation is going fine. So finally the most awaited video, India-Pakistan relations. And before this I have already uploaded video regarding India's relationship with countries like China, USA, Russia, Israel and Nepal. And if you want to watch these videos, the link of the playlist is available in the I button. So in this video, I will cover each and everything related to India-Pakistan relations, basically from the SSB point of view. Firstly, I will cover the timeline of events, that is the background, followed by the major issues between both the countries, then the solutions, how India can counter Pakistan, and finally, the way forward. So again, without wasting any time, let us start. So let us first begin with the background. So here I will discuss background in a systematic manner, that is, will cover major events that took place year-wise. So let us start. So the partition of British India was based on the two-nation theory, which is basically the ideology of religious nationalism. So in simple language, two-nation theory means Muslims and Hindus are two separate nations, and considering their social and moral point, Muslims should have their own separate homeland which is outside of Hindu majority and where Islam will be the dominant religion. So this idea that religion is the determining factor in defining the nationality was undertaken by Muhammad Ali Jinnah. So on 18th of July 1947, the British Parliament passed Indian Independence Act that finalized arrangements for partition. So finally on 15th of August 1947, India and Pakistan were granted independence from British rule to exist as independent nations. India was formed out of majority Hindu regions of British India and Pakistan was formed from majority of Muslim areas. Pakistan was geographically divided into two major regions, West Pakistan and East Pakistan, which is now Bangladesh, which was basically dominated by Bengali people. And the boundary between India and Pakistan was delineated by Sir Radcliffe, and that is why the boundary between India and Pakistan is known as Radcliffe Line. And the partition also led to the respective division of other departments, including the British Indian Army, civil services, and other administrative services, for example, railways. And the partition also resulted in major riots, where near about 5 lakh people were killed, and according to the UN figures, around 14 million Hindus, Sikhs, and Muslims were displaced, especially in the Punjab region, and it was the largest mass migration in the human history. Now during partition there were princely states and they were given the option either to join India or Pakistan. Some of these princely states they joined India and some of these joined Pakistan. But the state of Jammu and Kashmir decided neither to join India nor Pakistan but to exist as an independent entity. So in order to take over the claim of state of Jammu and Kashmir, the Azad Kashmir forces, supported by the Pakistan army, they attacked the state of Jammu and Kashmir and they started getting more local support because at that time the state of J&K had more than 75% of the Muslim population and they started marching towards Srinagar. So the Maharaja of Kashmir, Maharaja Hari Singh, he approached India for assistance and India deployed its troop to stop the advance of Azad Kashmir forces, but with the condition that the state of Jammu and Kashmir would accede to India. So hence on 26th of October 1947, the instrument of accession was signed between the then Indian PM Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru and the ruler of Jammu and Kashmir Maharaja Hari Singh, where the Sheikh Abdullah was appointed as the head of emergency administration. So the Indian troops, they stopped the Azad Kashmir forces and the Pakistani forces to the line which is presently known as line of control. So the area of Jammu and Kashmir, which is still in the possession of Pakistan, is called the Pakistan occupied Kashmir. Similarly, the area of Jammu and Kashmir that is held with India is called by Pakistan as Indian occupied Kashmir. Now, Pakistan violated the legality of instrument of accession, and this was the main reason for the first India-Pakistan war of 1948. And the ceasefire was proclaimed on 1st of January 1949 and India took the issue to the UN. UN mediated and made a resolution on 5th of January 1949 that the decision regarding the state of Jammu and Kashmir accession to India or Pakistan will be decided through a fair and impartial plebiscite and it will be conducted after the area was demilitarized. Now the plebiscite was never held because both the India and Pakistan they had their own interpretation. and the UN called the line where the Azad Kashmir forces were repelled as ceasefire line, and both the countries refer to the other side of the ceasefire line as occupied territory. Later in 1954, the accession of Jammu and Kashmir to India was ratified by states Constituent Assembly, and India gave special status to the state of Jammu and Kashmir through Article 370 and Article 35A. Now, in 1960, the major treaty was signed between both the countries, known as Indus Water Treaty, so which basically decides how both the countries can use water of Indus and their tributaries. Now, according to the Indus Water Treaty, India can use the waters of eastern rivers of Indus and their tributaries, that is, the eastern rivers include Ravi, Beas, and Satluj, and the water of western rivers, that is, Indus, Jhelum, and Chenab and their tributaries, will be allocated to Pakistan. Now, the Indus Water Treaty is the most generous treaty of the world because here the upper riparian state, that is India, has allowed the lower riparian state, that is Pakistan, the right to use more than 80% of the Indus water. Then after 2 years, the India-China War of 1962 took place, where we faced humiliating defeat. Then in the subsequent year, Pakistan gave an area called Shaksgam Valley to China as a friendly gesture. Then in the same year, the talks were held between the foreign ministers of India and Pakistan, where they discussed Kashmir dispute, but after 3 days, no agreement was reached. Then in 1964, following the failure of 1963 talks, Pakistan referred the Kashmir issue to the United Nations Security Council. Then in 1965, the second war between India and Pakistan took place, known as the India-Pakistan War of 1965. Actually, Pakistan thought that India was still recovering from 1962 War of China and they will not be able to cope up the attack of Pakistan. So they thought it was the right time to attack India. So talking about the 1965 war, it was the biggest tank battle since World War II and it was fought majorly along the western border, especially in the Punjab and the Jammu region. Talking about the initiation of the war, so war actually started after there was a clash between the border patrol teams in the month of April in the run of Kutch in Gujarat, but it escalated in the month of August, especially in the first week. So the Operation Gibraltar was launched by Pakistan, where more than 30,000 Pakistan soldiers they crossed the ceasefire line and where they were dressed as Kashmiri locals. And following this, India retaliated by launching a full-scale military attack on the western Pakistan. The Indian troops crossed the international border and they reached Lahore on 6th of September. Now the 65 war saw the largest engagement of tanks, especially in the Sialkot sector, and various battles were fought during 65 war. For example, the Battle of Asalutar, when the Pakistan forces entered the Khemkaran sector and the graveyard of the Pakistani tanks were made by the Indian Army. Indian Army destroyed the American-based Pakistani Patton tank, and that area is now known as Patan Nagar because that area contains the 99 destroyed Pakistani tanks. And other battles like Battle of Philora, Battle of Chaiwanda and Battle of Barki were fought. Then finally on 22nd of September, the war was ended when both the sides agreed to the UN mandated ceasefire. Then in the next year, that is in 1966, the Tashkent Declaration was signed, which was basically a peace agreement and where both the countries they pledged to the pre-August lines and that diplomatic and economic relations would be restored. But nothing changed. Just within a gap of 5 years, the third war between India and Pakistan took place, known as the India-Pakistan War of 1971, also known as the Bangladesh Liberation War, because the result of the war created new nation known as Bangladesh. Now talking about the initiation of the war, so as the eastern Pakistan, that which is now Bangladesh, was dominated by the Bengali people, and the Bengali leader of Awami League, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, he won majority of seats, but the central government in the western Pakistan refused to allow the Awami leader Sheikh Mujibur Rahman to assume the premiership. So the Pakistan military they started crackdown in the Dhaka in the month of March. But India involved in the December. After the Pakistan Air Force they launched attack on the airfields of India in the India's northwest part. Then India launched coordinated land, air and sea assault. So in 1971 war, Indian Navy played a very major role. And finally, Pakistan Army surrendered at Dhaka, where 93,000 Pakistani soldiers were taken as prisoners of war. And you can see the photo, which is our favorite photo, the Pakistani Lieutenant General, General Niazi, signing the instrument of surrender. And during the 71 operation, Field Marshal Sam Manekshaw was a general of the Indian Army. Then in the next year in 1972, the Shimla Agreement was signed between both the countries where both agreed to put an end to conflict and work for the harmonious relationship. The Shimla Agreement also identified Jammu and Kashmir as a bilateral issue and called for both the countries to settle their differences through peaceful means and bilateral negotiations. And the ceasefire line was converted into line of control. And under Shimla Agreement, India also agreed to release 93,000 Pakistani prisoners of war. Then in 1974, the state government of Jammu and Kashmir affirms that it is the constituent part of Union of India, which was rejected by the Pakistan. Then in the same year, on May 18, India detonates a nuclear device at Pokhran in an operation codenamed Smiling Buddha, and India refers to the device as Peaceful Nuclear Explosive. Then in 1976, the efforts were taken to improve people to people contact between both the countries when the first train Samjhauta Express was started. Then in 1978, the Pakistani forces, with the help of foreign mountaineers, they led an expeditions to capture the Siachen Glacier. But it was on 13th of April 1984 when the Operation Meghdut was launched by the Indian Army to took over the control of Siachen Glacier. Then in 1988, both the countries signed an agreement that neither side will attack others' nuclear installations. Then from 1989, the armed resistance to the Indian rule in Kashmir Valley started, where the Muslim political parties they accused the state government of rigging the 1987 elections. Then in the early 90s, Pakistan started waging proxy war in the Kashmir Valley because after facing three conventional war with India, they realized that they cannot defeat India in a face-to-face battle. So they started a proxy war. They infiltrated terrorists, provided them weapons and training, and the activist group they started taking part in the fight in the Kashmir. And the complete turmoil was created by Pakistan in the Kashmir Valley, and there was a large influx of Mujahideen, basically of those who took part in the Afghan war against the Soviet Union in the early 1980s. Then in 1991, both the countries signed an agreement on providing advance notification of military exercises, troop movements, as well as on preventing airspace violations. And similarly, the following year, joint declaration was also signed in New Delhi on prohibiting the use of chemical weapons. Then in 1998, India detonates 5 nuclear devices at Pokhran, and Pakistan responded by detonating 6 devices. And thereafter, these international sanctions were placed on both the countries, and the same year both the countries carried out a test of long range missiles. Then in the year 1999, then Indian Prime Minister Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee met his Pakistani counterpart in Lahore, and the Lahore Declaration was signed on 21st of Feb, and this was the first major agreement since the Shimla Accord. And under Lahore Declaration, both the countries reaffirmed their commitment to the Shimla Accord and agreed to undertake a number of CBMs, that is the confidential building measures. Then in the same year, the Kargil war started. So Pakistan again waged a failed war. The cause of the Kargil war was the infiltration of the Pakistani troops on the Indian positions of the LOC, and Indian Army launched Operation Vijay to flush out the regular and the irregular troops of the Pakistan Army from the vacated positions along the LOC. Indian Army later got the support of Indian Air Force, and Indian Army recaptured majority of the positions on the Indian side. Then in the October 1999, General Pervez Musharraf led a military coup and the Pakistani government was toppled. Then after 2 years, the tensions along LOC remained high as there was an attack on the Kashmir Assembly in Srinagar where around 38 people were killed. Then in the same year, in the month of July, both the PMs met for 2-day summit in Agra, but the summit collapsed after 2 days. Then there was another attack by Pakistan on the Indian Parliament on 13th of December 2001. The Pakistani-based terrorist groups Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed were behind the attack. Then in response to this, Indian Army launched Operation Parakram, which was the huge military deployment in the year 2001 to 2. And the two countries were almost on the brink of war as there was a heavy deployment of both the militaries along the LOC. But the standoff ended in the October 2002 after the international mediation. Then in 2006, the second train, Thar Express, started between the district of Jodhpur and Rajasthan to the Karachi cantonment in the Sindh province of Pakistan. Then in 2007, the Samjhauta Express train was bombed near Panipat, where 68 people were killed. And next year, in 2008, India joined Tapi pipeline project with Turkmenistan, Afghanistan and Pakistan. But in the same year, in the month of July, again there was an attack on the Indian embassy in Kabul, where 58 people were killed, and India blamed Pakistan ISI for the attack. Then at the end of 2008, in the month of November, the Mumbai attacks took place, known as the 2611 Mumbai attacks, when the armed gunmen opened fire on civilians at several places in Mumbai. And in this attack, 160 people were killed. And this attack was carried out by Lashkar-e-Taiba, which is a terrorist-based organization in Pakistan. And India caught Ajmal Kasab. Then, after the Mumbai attacks, India breaks off ties with Pakistan, and after that, India gave number of evidences regarding the Mumbai attacks to Pakistan and asking it to persecute the Hafiz Sayyid, who was the preparator of this attack. Then, in 2012, India executed Ajmal Kasab. Then after 2 years, India again took efforts to maintain peace with Pakistan. For example, in the month of May, the Pakistani PM was invited for PM Modi's swearing-in ceremony, and in return, Pakistan released 151 Indian fishermen from its jail as a goodwill gesture. Then again, next year in 2015, in the month of July, the Gurdaspur attack took place, also known as Dina Nagar police station attack, where the three gunmen dressed in army uniform, they opened fire on bus. And along with this, 5 bombs were found planted on Amritsar Pathankot line on a railway bridge. And on the basis of GPS system obtained, it was found that the terrorists entered India via Pakistan. Then at the end of 2015, India again took efforts to maintain peace with Pakistan. For example, PM Modi made a surprise visit to Lahore on Nawaz Sharif's birthday and the wedding of his granddaughter. But just after 7 days, in return, Pakistan gave us 2016 Pathankot airbase attack. Talking about Pathankot Air Base attack, the attack took place on 2nd of January 2016 when 6 Pakistani trained militants entered India via Kathua Gurdaspur border, and the main target of the terrorist was to attack India's strategic assets in the airbase. For example, the MiG-21 fighter jet and MiG-25 attack helicopters. Then in the same year, in the month of September, the Uri attack took place. That is on 18th of September. The grenade attacks were carried out by terrorists. And in the Uri attack, we lost our 18 bravehearts. And this attack was carried out by the Pakistani-based terrorist group Jaish-e-Mohammed. And that was involved in planning as well as the execution of the attack. And in response to Uri attack, just after 10 days, Indian Army launched surgical strikes, also known as the famous 2016 surgical strike. So the surgical strike was carried out by special forces from 9 and Para SF when they were inserted inside LOC, where they destroyed a large number of terrorist infrastructure and inflicted heavy casualties, and without losing a single Indian soldier. And the whole incident was recorded on cameras. So after the 2016 Uri attack, India got support from the global community, as majority of the countries, they condemned the attack that took place, and India took steps to isolate Pakistan globally. For example, the SAARC summit that was to be held in Islamabad, India decided to opt out of the SAARC summit, and following this, the countries like Nepal, Bangladesh and Afghanistan, they took the same step, and Pakistan was isolated internationally. Then in June 2017, India and Pakistan joined SCO, that is Shanghai Cooperation Organization, as full members, and before this, both the countries were having observer status. Then after 2 years, that is on 14th of February 2019, the biggest attack took place, known as the Pulwama attack, and it was a black day in India. So in the Pulwama attack, we lost our 40 bravehearts, that is the 40 CRPF personnel were martyred, and the responsibility of the attack was claimed by the Pakistani-based terrorist group Jaish-e-Mohammed. And the attack took place when the convoy of vehicles carrying CRPF personnel was attacked by a vehicle-borne suicide bomber that carried around 350 kg of explosive. And this Pulwama attack gave a biggest blow to the India-Pakistan relations. And in response to Pulwama attack, India took many steps. Firstly, India revoked MFN status given to Pakistan. Then India hiked excise duty on import by 200%. Pakistani artists were banned and they were asked to leave India immediately. But India gave befitting reply to Pakistan in the form of airstrikes, also known as Balakot airstrikes. So the Balakot airstrikes took place on the wee hours of 26 February when the 12 Mirage 2000 aircrafts entered Balakot town and destroyed heavy amount of terrorist infrastructure. Actually, it was a preemptive strike that was directed against terrorist training camp. And on the same day, Pakistan retaliated when their aircrafts crossed LOC around 10:30 am. Main target of Pakistan was to attack Indian military installations, but they failed to do so because the attack was repelled by the high alert Indian armed forces. And in the fight, Indian pilot Wing Commander Abhinandan destroyed the Pakistani F-16 with MiG-21. While he was evacuating, the parachute of Wing Commander Abhinandan was drifted towards the Pakistan occupied Kashmir and he was taken into custody of Pakistan Army. Then after 2 days, Wing Commander Abhinandan returned to India on 1st of March, and these airstrikes were the first since Indian-Pakistan War of 1971, and many countries supported India, like USA and France. They openly supported India's airstrike on terrorist training camp. Then on 5th of August 2019, Article 370 was revoked by Indian government when the state of Jammu and Kashmir was bifurcated into the union territories of Ladakh and Jammu. However, after this, Pakistan condemned India's decision and called it illegal. Pakistan failed to get any support, and after this, Pakistan took number of steps. For example, they suspended Thar Express. Pakistan downgraded diplomatic ties, but India got majority of support from the global community because every country called it as the internal matter of India. Then in November 2019, the Kartarpur corridor was opened, which I can say is the only positive between both the countries now. So this corridor was opened on the 550th anniversary of Shri Guru Nanak Dev Ji, and it connects the Dera Baba Nanak town in India to Shri Kartarpur Sahib Gurdwara in Pakistan, Narowal district. So presently it is closed because of COVID-19. Then on 4th of August 2020, just a day before the first anniversary of scrapping of Article 370, Pakistan issued a new map where they claimed entire state of Jammu and Kashmir including Ladakh and the Junagadh area of Gujarat. And talking about the current status of India-Pakistan relations, the only window of hope for the bilateral cooperation was provided by COVID-19 outbreak and the joint efforts by the members of SAARC to contain the virus. But Pakistan mostly used the high-level meetings to raise Kashmir issue only. Then in the month of February this year, India and Pakistan, they released a joint statement where they agreed to maintain strict observance of all peace and ceasefire agreements, and both the sides agreed that the existing forms of hotline and border flag meetings would be utilized to solve any future misunderstanding. Then in the month of March, Pakistan made a swift U-turn on the plans to allow limited imports of sugar, cotton and wheat from India after there was a political backlash on the move. And recently, Pakistan Foreign Minister said that Article 370 is an internal matter of India. However, they have issue with the Article 35A and they want Article 35A to be scrapped. So this was about the timeline of events regarding the relations between both the countries. Now let us discuss the major issues between both the countries. So the biggest area of contention between India and Pakistan is the border dispute at various places. So the first is the border dispute in Sar Creek. So let us first understand what is Sar Creek. So Sar Creek is a 96-kilometer strip of uninhabited marshland on the border of India and Pakistan, and Sar Creek opens up in the Arabian Sea and it divides the Gujarat state of India from the Sindh province of Pakistan, because the Sindh province of British India after partition was split into two parts, the Gujarat in India and Sindh in Pakistan. And the major reason for the Sar Creek dispute is in the interpretation of maritime boundary between India and Pakistan. Actually, Pakistan claims that the entire creek belongs to them and they give justification as per the paragraph 9 and 10 of the Sindh government resolution. However, on the other side, India's justification is that as per the international law, the river boundaries between two states are to be divided by mid-channel. Hence, India claims that the boundary lies mid-channel and not on the eastern flank of the creek. So you can see from the map the claim by India and Pakistan. And in order to counter India's claim, Pakistan said that this international law doctrine is only applicable to the water bodies that are navigable. However, in case of Sar Creek, it is non-navigable as it is only a marshy land. But India's reason is that the waterway is navigable during high tide. And the point of concern for the Pakistan is that Sar Creek has changed its course over the years, and if the boundary line is demarcated according to the international law, then Pakistan will lose a considerable portion of the territory that was historically part of province of Sindh. So therefore, because of the clash of interest, this long-standing boundary dispute has remained unresolved. And the second dispute is of Siachen Glacier, and we all are aware that in 1949, UN mediated between India and Pakistan, and the ceasefire line that was demarcated by UN was marked only up to the foot of Siachen Glacier, that is the map coordinates NJ9842. Now you can see clearly from the map the area beyond point NJ9842 was not marked because the area is largely inaccessible because of the extreme climate. So therefore the root cause of the Siachen is the non-demarcation of the ceasefire line beyond the point NJ9842. So this is the main dispute. And on Siachen Glacier, I have already uploaded a detailed video. If you want to watch, the link is available in the I button. So here I will discuss briefly only. So we were discussing that the area beyond point NJ9842 was not demarcated. So, in order to underline its claim over the non demarcated area, Pakistan started permitting foreign mountaineering expeditions. But it was on 13th of April in 1984 when Indian Army launched a preemptive strike by launching Operation Meghdut, where the Kumaon Regiment was there and it was supported by Indian Air Force that went into the glacier and took almost complete control of the 78 km of the glacier. Now, Indian Army is occupying topmost positions at Siachen Glacier, and Pakistan was beaten in the race at the top. So this alignment is called AGPL, that is Actual Ground Position Line. And the biggest issue between India and Pakistan is the Jammu and Kashmir conflict, which is also creating a water war between both India and Pakistan. Now, Pakistan is one of the most water stressed countries in the world, and according to the data by NASA satellite, it was revealed that the Indus Basin is the second most stressed in the world. So, because of which, both the countries are desperate to assume the tight control over the available water resources. So, there are a number of reasons. Because, firstly, in Jammu and Kashmir, the world's highest battlefield, Siachen Glacier, is available, and that is considered as the single largest source of fresh water on the Indian subcontinent. And also, the Siachen Glacier is a source of Nubra River that eventually feeds Indus. So, because of which both the countries want to control the Indus River water. Now, the agrarian states of Punjab on the both sides of border, they are heavily dependent upon Indus River water because 90% of the Pakistan water resources comes from Indus and 65% of its irrigated landmass is using Indus water. And Pakistan is an agrarian economy and it is largely dependent upon export of agro commodities. And also it is the world's third largest exporter of rice and fourth largest exporter of cotton. And rice is a highly water intensive crop, so agriculture almost consume 90% of its water resources. And in case in future, if India wants to tamper with its water resources, this will adversely affect the social and economic life of Pakistan, which is considered as a big threat by Pakistan. And the three western rivers which are under Pakistani control, which feeds the southern Punjab region, which is the nursery of terrorist groups like Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed. So that is the basic reason why Pakistan wants to maintain a foothold in Jammu and Kashmir by proxy war. And another long-standing issue that India is facing from Pakistan is cross-border terrorism and ceasefire violations. So like we have seen from last 7 decades that Pakistan is sponsoring terrorists in India, especially in Kashmir Valley. And they are Pakistan Army and Pakistan ISI. They are training and providing funds to the terrorists. Similarly, they are radicalizing the mind of Kashmiri youth to act against India. And apart from this, ceasefire violations are conducted by Pakistan Army every day. Now, despite India's efforts to maintain peace with Pakistan, every day Pakistan Army conducts ceasefire violations. And these ceasefire violations are leading to the death and injury of security forces as well as the innocent civilians. Now, India's stand is that it will not undertake talks with Pakistan until it tackles cross-border terrorism. Whereas on the other side, Pakistan said they are ready for talks, but they want the inclusion of Kashmir issue. Now, why Pakistan conducts ceasefire violation on regular basis? So, well, there are reasons behind it. So, let us discuss the reasons behind the regular ceasefire violations by Pakistan. So the main reason for ceasefire violation by Pakistan is basically to provide covering fire to the militants. So as large number of the militants infiltrate into Jammu and Kashmir, so by doing ceasefire violation, Pakistan Army is keeping Indian security busy at the one side, and on the other side the militants infiltrates into Kashmir. Now the infiltration of militants becomes very difficult when it snows heavy in the Kashmir Valley. So the maximum infiltration occurs pre-winters, especially at the end of September and October. Now, the second reason is Pakistan wants to highlight the issue of Jammu and Kashmir at various world forums, and they have tried many times this in the past also. And by doing regular firing on Indian post, they want to check the response of Indian security forces. They want India to respond in disproportionate manner that will lead to collateral damage, so that they will get an opportunity that Indian security forces is committing human rights violations in the Kashmir Valley, and they will highlight the Kashmir issue at world forums. And another issue between India and Pakistan is of Kulbhushan Jadhav case. Talking about Kulbhushan Jadhav, he is a retired naval officer who was arrested by Pakistan forces from Iran-Pakistan border in Balochistan region in the month of March 2016. So Pakistan accused Kulbhushan Jadhav of spying. They say that he is not retired. He was doing spying in Balochistan and is working for RAW. On the other side, India states that the Kulbhushan Jadhav was a retired naval officer and he was doing his business in Iran when he was arrested by Pakistan forces without any reason. And later on, India demanded consular access for Jadhav, which was rejected by Pakistan citing national security, and because of this, India moved to ICJ, that is International Court of Justice, stating that Pakistan violated Vienna Convention by denying consular access. And now recently, Pakistan passed a bill which is in favor of Kulbhushan Jadhav, that his case will be now heard in civilian court rather than military court. And another issue is China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. So this is a flagship program under the Belt and Road Initiative of China that will connect the Kashgar district of China to Gwadar port. Now India's issue is of sovereignty issues, because India said that they are not going to allow the business of other two countries from their soil. So that is the main reason. And here I will not discuss about CPEC, because very soon I am coming up with a detailed video regarding this. So let us now discuss the solutions, how India can counter Pakistan. So talking about solutions to counter Pakistan, especially the long-term solutions, firstly, there is a need for coherent, consistent and proactive policy for Pakistan. So this is the main area where we lacked. Like on the other side, Pakistan have openly stated their policy for India, that is to bleed India through 100 cuts. But India's efforts were always to maintain our soft nation image, and we have always adopted defensive approach. And that is, unless the particular country or entity attack us, we are not going to attack first. And the security forces were never given free hand. And whenever there was a change in power in state of Jammu and Kashmir, so every time the political parties came up with a different approach to deal Pakistan, and which never yielded a solution to this long-term problem. So there is a need for a well-crafted policy which should be made after taking into confidence from the political parties, and thereafter the policy should remain same irrespective of the political party in power, and along with it the security forces needs to be given free hand. And apart from this, India needs to act proactively. For example, we can talk about the countries like US and Israel. They have always acted proactively. For example, they have conducted retaliatory strikes against enemy and terrorists. So there is a need for India to do the same without thinking about global community. And finally, there is a need for India to ignore China while fighting with Pakistan. Like we have always seen, whenever there was a India-Pakistan conflict, China never mediated, because China is a sensible economy and their only concern is CPEC, that is the security of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. And secondly, there is a need for enhancing our military might. That is, we need to modernize our armed forces, because India is surrounded by not so good neighbors in the form of China and Pakistan. And in order to ensure peace, we must be prepared for war. And in order to prepare for war, we must modernize our armed forces. But we are not adequately investing in our defense. Like we can take example, like our previous defense budget was only 2.1% of the GDP, and if we compare this with Pakistan, they are spending between 3 to 3.5% of their GDP on defense. So there is need to maintain our GDP on defense between 2.5 to 3% for the next 15 to 20 years in order to meet our modernization plan. Similarly, we are not having adequate ammunition inventory for fighting 30-day war, and most of the equipment held with the armed forces are of the vintage category. For example, artillery needs more sophisticated guns and howitzers, and most of the tanks held with the armored corps are not capable to fight at night. Similarly, Indian Air Force is down to only 31 squadrons wherever the requirement is of 45 squadrons. And most importantly, the troops that are deployed in the counterinsurgency role are inadequately equipped. So there is a need to modernize our infantry, for example, by providing them modern rifles, machine guns, bulletproof jackets, lighter helmets, and night vision devices. And we are lucky to have an adversary in the form of Pakistan that is also not better equipped than us. So that is why both the conventional wars that we faced with Pakistan, 65 and 71 operation, lasted for only 10 to 12 days. But Pakistan holds more nuclear weapons than India in the present time, and it is projected that once India gains military gains, for example, if we enter the Pakistan main heartland, that is the Lahore, so they are going to press their nuclear button. So there is dire need to modernize our armed forces, especially the restructuring of the forces. And for that, we have already taken the first step. Like recently, our army chief announced that next year we are coming up with integrated battle groups. That is going to be the new formation of the Indian Army. And very soon I am coming up with a detailed video regarding integrated battle groups. Thirdly, there is a need for economic and diplomatic isolation of Pakistan, because apart from military option, this is the best option which should be proactively maintained on Pakistan, because this is the non-violent strategy and this will invite less direct military conflict, and we have the ability to use our emerging economic power So this will be more damaging for Pakistan in the long run. And recently we have seen after Uri attack, India got the support of international community and our neighboring countries in the form of Bangladesh. They opted out of SAARC summit, which was to be held in Pakistan. Similarly, after Pulwama attack, India got the support of major countries across the world. And then after the scrapping of revocation of Article 370 by India, majority of the countries supported India and Pakistan was isolated completely. So we must use this challenging time as an opportunity to isolate Pakistan internationally and convince the world community to exert more diplomatic pressure and impose economic sanctions. Like we all are aware that Pakistan is already suffering huge economic losses because of the FATF grey list. And finally, there is a need for India to do the same which Pakistan is doing to India from last many years. That is, there is need to bleed Pakistan because this is the best long-term option with India. Like we already discussed, Pakistan openly stated their policy to fight low-intensity conflict with India, and they have always raised the Kashmir issue at the UN. Similarly, now they are also raising the slogans of Khalistan movement. So there is a need for India to do the same. So India needs to support the aspirations of people of Balochistan who are struggling for independent nation. Similarly, we need to support the aspirations of people of POK and Gilgit-Baltistan who are bearing the atrocities of the Pakistan army. And we have already witnessed that after Uri attack, there was a demand by the Baloch leader Bukti for seeking political asylum in India. And recently there was a demand of Sindhu Desh in the Sindh province of Pakistan. So there is a need for India to act proactively to dismantle the stronghold of army, terrorists and Islamic radicals. So this was about the long-term solutions to counter Pakistan. Now let us discuss the way forward, the future of both the countries. So talking about the way ahead, now the question is, will the peace ever prevail between India and Pakistan? Well, the answer is no. Why? Because we all are aware that in Pakistan, the two main agencies, their military and ISI runs the country and not by the elected government. So the political leaders are just figureheads and they work only on the command of military. So in simple language, it means that all the major decisions in Pakistan are taken by their military chief, that is the General Bajwa, and their political leaders, that is their PM Imran Khan, is just a figurehead and he works under the command of army chief. So the Pakistan military is only relevant till such time whenever there is a warmongering or whenever there is a trouble with India as well as with Afghanistan. Because the day peace prevails in the region, Pakistan military will lose its relevance and dominance in the country. So that's why they always find different ways to keep hate against India. And these two agencies, Pakistan military and ISI, will never let peace to be happen between India and Pakistan. And along with it, I feel attempts to improve relations with Pakistan are a waste of time because time and again we have seen that Pakistan have always betrayed India. Whenever India have taken efforts to improve relations with Pakistan, Pakistan have always reciprocated with attacks. For example, when the then Indian PM Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee, he went to Lahore when the Lahore Declaration was signed. So in return, Pakistan gave us Kargil. Then in 2015 December, when PM Modi made a surprise visit to Lahore, so just after 7 days, Pakistan gave us Pathankot air base attack. So I feel the attempts to improve relations with Pakistan are a waste of time. And there is need for India to conduct proactive military strikes and the retaliation should be 3 to 4 times. So India should maintain the strict watch on the activities by Pakistan on the LOC, and any military or terror strike in the future must be retaliated with greater intensity and armed forces should be given a free hand. So by consistent military strikes and by projecting our military might in the region, Pakistan will beg for peace. So friends, this is all about India-Pakistan relations and I have tried to keep this video as short as possible and I think I have almost covered everything keeping SSB in mind, and I hope this video will be beneficial for you in your upcoming interview as well as in your written exam. So this is the end of the video. So till then, keep watching and keep supporting. Thank you and best of luck for your upcoming SSB.